Namaste, dear listeners, and welcome to the Iowa channel Astro In with Abhi, Oneness in Astrology and Spirituality, bringing in awareness by Abhi. If you haven't as yet, please make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the like, and share this podcast with as many people that you think would benefit from this. Now, I think this is the most, I've got the most positive feedback from you guys with regards to my podcast when it comes to the retrogrades, and I can understand why. So keep them coming in. Thank you so much for all the good reviews, and I can understand why, because retrogrades are always dreadful, and I can relate to you, especially during my first 5 years when I started practicing astrology, or just getting the basic understanding for astrology. I used to feel that way, but I'm here to discuss the retrogrades, and we've done already the Venus retrograde, the Mars retrograde, and now we're going to go into the Saturn retrograde, the do's and don'ts for the retrogrades. And today we're going to discuss the do's and don'ts for a Saturn retrograde. Now, in order to understand Saturn's retrograde, the impact of it, or the do's and don'ts, we first got to understand what Saturn is. Saturn is the planet of discipline. Saturn is the planet of karma, the cause and effect. As you cause, so shall the effect be. So I'd like to describe Saturn fundamentally, holistically, as a planet that returns everything back to you, in thought, in word, and action. It's the karma, discipline, structure. You know, so and retrograde is when Saturn is moving away from Earth. So basically, the lessons that you're gonna get. Let's give you an example. So let's just say you are a person that you can never be faithful, and you've got caught out, and your partner has left you, and then you went through your healing process, and then you found somebody else. Now you're with a new person, and then you've got Saturn retrograde. Now during that Saturn retrograde, it's gonna bring that energy back to see, well, to bring the energy back, and the probability of you having a relapse is dependent on how much you have healed. So I cannot discuss how, the percentage from a probability point, whether, how at what rate you're going to relapse. But the whole point of it is, when there's a certain retrograde, you're going to be given the same kind of energy. It's going to bring that energy back. The lesson that you should have learned: you should not cheat. So it will bring those events back. Maybe you could have a new person that comes through. You are dating somebody, but you'll have an opportunity with somebody else to see whether you'll cheat or not. And during a certain retrograde, it'll bring in similar instances. It's just different people. And let's just say if you relapse and you happen to cheat again during that certain retrograde, the impact of it is felt twice as hard. The lesson comes in twice as hard as well. So, look, what are the do's and what are the don'ts? So, it's a period of introspection and reflection. It's asking you to look back. What are the lessons that I've learned? Have I learned it? And listen, even though you have learned the lesson, that doesn't mean it's different with a Saturn retrograde. Sorry, with a Saturn retrograde, it brings back that energy. Whether you have learned from it or not, Saturn just brings back that energy. And I've seen this happen in many people's lives. Maybe other astrologers might differ from what I'm saying, but basically from awareness for Abhi, this is what I've picked up. It's very common. Saturn brings in the similar events. Everything that you have learned from and you never learned from during the the Saturn retrograde, he will bring that. He will bring those events back. What you do with it is entirely up to you. You decide to, if you strengthened up and you've healed from it, and you overcome the lesson, that's good for you. You'll get rewarded for that, which is peace. And if you don't, and if you relapse, then you'll also get rewarded for that. Get rewarded the karma for it, which is tenfold, because Saturn's retrograde. It's powerful. So it's a time for introspection, reflection. It's encouraging you to reflect from your past. It's asking you to revisit your past issues. It can shine a light on unfinished business, unresolved issues. Where you're neglecting, which area of your life you're neglecting yourself. But fundamentally, holistically, karma, accountability. Remember, Saturn is associated with accountability, karma. So its retrograde phase can highlight areas where you need to take responsibility for your actions and adjust the imbalances. So this is where this as a Saturn specialist, this is what I like to teach. The impact of Saturn. And with the retrograde, I find him more powerful because it's bringing back, it's shining a light on everything that you need to improve on. Now, what you should not do, you should never repeat the same mistakes. Definitely not during a Saturn retrograde. The impact of it is felt tenfold. What you should do, you should write down everything that you have went through in the last like 5 to 9 years. Write down all the lessons you've learned from there, and become aware of those lessons, and repeat it every day, each lesson, so that when you come across a similar instance, the lesson is already implanted in your conscious mind. It's not buried in your subconscious mind. So how I'd like to describe Saturn's retrograde is you need to take out everything from your subconscious mind and become aware. Place it in your conscious mind. Be conscious of what is in your subconscious mind. That's how I'd like to describe a Saturn retrograde. Now, what you should do is that you should look at all the lessons that you've underwent, bring it to your conscious mind, bring awareness to that every day, so that when you go through repeated events, you can evolve from that lesson. What you should not do is repeat the same mistake. It's as easy as that. You should not uh, you should not indulge in any kind of mind altering substances. I highly suggest that you do not drink and drive during a Saturn retrograde. Well, you shouldn't be drinking and driving at any given time, but during a Saturn retrograde, it can become very nasty. And you see, during a Saturn retrograde, um, depending where the sun's placement is as well, right, it's just not a nice time to be taking chances. You know, drinking and driving is the worst thing that you can possibly do. But during a Saturn retrograde, the probability of you causing a big mishap is very high. And definitely don't stay away from narcotics, any mind altering substances. Do not indulge in any kind of painkillers. Don't get too used to taking this during a certain retrograde, because it becomes very difficult to be mindful of your lessons. If you've got a mind altering substance in your body, how would you expect to become mindful of your lessons? Your vision or your awareness is minimized, or the light is dim. You see, so definitely don't take any mind-altering substances, and don't lie, cheat, or steal. Well, you shouldn't be doing this at any given time, but during a Saturn retrograde, when you do these things there, when Saturn goes direct, you are implanting your karma time, tenfold. I like to describe it as tenfold, because Saturn's energy is less felt during that retrograde. You know, um, his influence is less felt on planet Earth. But once that retrograde is over and whatever you've done, when he's moving forward, it hits you like a ton of bricks. I've seen a lot of people that go through this year. They've done certain things during a retrograde, and then boom, the first 9 days when Saturn has went direct, they've got rewarded for all their mishaps, for all the things that they have done. They got boom banged. When it rains, it pours. You get it like that. Everything happens one time, and you cannot. It becomes overwhelming, and you don't know which side to turn, and you can really make a mockery of your life. So I hope you guys understand that the Saturn retrograde is it's a very tricky one, because as much as you want to go within, as much as you want to try and remember all of your lessons, at the same time it can also bring up a lot of emotions. It can bring up a lot of emotions, and if you are not a person that can handle your emotions very well, it can also make you relive these events. So it can be tricky, but yes, you have to relive these events. Why? So that you remember the pains that it brought you, so that you don't end up in that mess again. So yes, it is much needed during a Saturn retrograde. If you're remembering your past, you try to bring it to the surface, and if it's opening up wounds, yes, it's needed. Why? So that you don't take yourself back in that same mess. So that's why I'm saying it can be tricky, because a lot of people who have told us to did tell me, hey, wait a minute, Abhi, I've done this process, I've written everything down, I've spent time with them, but it brought in it brought about so much of emotions that were very difficult to deal with. I thought I healed, but I didn't. But no, you are healing. You have healed. You are healing. You are healing. It's just that it's nice to remember those things. Why? So that you don't end up in that mess again. And that's why it's important. So Thank you very, very much, dear listeners. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel, like and share this with as many people as you want to. Jai Shri Krishna, Jai Shri Ram, Om Namah Shivaya, Hari Bol, and goodbye.